Isaiah chapter 2, 1 to 5. This is what Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the last days, the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Come, descendants of Jacob, let us walk in the light of the Lord." Amen. There are ways and ways of remembering. Remembering is at the heart of our faith, actually, as Christians. Do this in remembrance of me. And it's always related not just to the presence of us doing it, but to us looking forward. Every time you eat this bread, every time you drink from this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes, looking forward as well as backwards. And when we come to Remembrance Day, we often do it, as our prayers and readings have said, with gratitude, perhaps with relief that it achieved something, peace, perhaps with relief that it looks like it won't be required again because we've learned something, not to go to war. But of course there are other ways of remembering, and sometimes remember with a sense of foreboding, with a bit of despair that we haven't learned and that we get dragged back there again. And I think the days we're living in at present are hard days for the hope part of it, for saying we've learned something. We wonder if we have learned, and we feel that we're on that cycle of being dragged back. And this was brought home to me this week because I don't know how many of you heard the acceptance speech from the mayor of New York, the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani. And he started his speech with a quote from Eugene Debs. And it's just simply said this: "I see the dawn of a new day for humanity." He actually went on to explain that he knew times were hard, but he just said, "I see the dawn of a new day for humanity." It's quite a big phrase to say, quite a big thing to say. It's things are coming, things are starting, the light is dawning. And I was struck not by what he said, but by the commentators that I heard commenting on it. And one asked another, when he fails to deliver, will the voters forgive him? Hard days for hope, when you're not allowed to express it for fear of a backlash later. To express hope is to offer a hostage to fortune. And at the risk of being political, I would say that our government has learned this lesson too well. Don't be too hopeful. The papers will hang you on your words when things go wrong. Instead, talk up the problems. Talk up the problems, and then they'll give you a bit of a break while you try and solve them. Don't be too hopeful. But the problem is that a government without hope starts to sound a bit hopeless. And I don't know really if the mayor of New York was wise or not. I don't know if he has a plan or if he can deliver on it. But as I was preparing for today, I thought, well, at least he's in good company. Because Isaiah was speaking too in the darkness of war and the darkness of poverty. But he just couldn't help return to hope. Passage we've had. And if you've got time at home, read chapters 1 and the rest of chapter 2. It's dark. It's properly dark. But in the midst of it, he gives us this little nugget of hope. He's living in the days of fire, and he tells the people that in no uncertain terms. But he also says this, and he'll keep saying it. But in the coming days, it will be different in the coming days. Today, Jerusalem is razed to the ground. But in the coming days, the mountain of the Lord shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills. Today, we are threatened by enemy armies, but in days to come, all the nations will stream to Jerusalem, and many peoples will come, and they will say, "Come, let us come to the house of the Lord, to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in his paths." Today we face the sword and the spear, but in days to come, God will judge between the nations. God will mediate for many peoples, and they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and they will not lift up nation sword against nation, and they won't learn war anymore. This is the life of faith. It's the same in our view of the world as in our lives, and it sounds preposterous sometimes, but this is the life of faith. Today it's hard, and to be honest and open about it, today it's hard. Today I'm caught up and sunk down in things I can't quite cope with. But days are coming. Days are coming when I will be free of it. Sometimes I wish faith wasn't like that. And sometimes we're living in the time we're there when the days have come. But at the worst, when it's hard, we are pointed to days that are coming. And you know, it makes a difference. It makes a difference, even in the hard times, to hear that days are coming. It's not pie in the sky only when you're in heaven. Days are coming. It might be tomorrow, it could be this afternoon, it could be the day after. But it keeps you moving. That's what Isaiah found. He kept coming back to hope because people needed to be kept moving, and so did he. And you get this picture actually in Mamdani's speech, the mayor of New York. Or at least in the speech of the person he was quoting, Eugene Debs. Eugene Debs, I don't know if you know who he was. He was the founder of the American Socialist Party. So he was the king of lost causes, basically. And he said this, "I see the dawn of a new day for humanity." He wasn't on the mountaintop when he said this. He wasn't seeing the world change. He was actually in the dock, about to be sentenced to 10 years in prison in 1918 for speaking against war at the wrong time, and for speaking against a society that was dominated by the ultra-wealthy, while too many people worked in factories and earned nothing, or next to nothing. He says, in his own words, he was in the dock when he saw the dawn of a new day for humanity. He said that he was in the dock for opposing a social order in which it is possible for one man who does absolutely nothing that is useful to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of men and women who work all the hours of their lives secure barely enough for existence. This was his situation. Can you imagine a time like that? It must be terrible. Or you could just turn on the news. He saw a stubborn problem that was and that still is ruining the lives of millions and billions of people. He knew that his protest was puny and was punishable. And in that context there, he said, "I see the dawn of a new day for humanity." It's a bit like Martin Luther King with his "I had a dream. I have a dream." Martin Luther King, of course, when he said that, he knew where he was standing. I have a dream while I'm standing in the shadows. He was in what he called the dark and desolate valley of segregation. But he's dreaming, and he's seen it, of the sunlit paths of justice, racial justice. He was, as he said, in the quicksands of racial injustice when he said it, but he saw what he called the solid rock of brotherhood and the time in which justice was a reality for all God's children. His dream that his children would be judged not by the colour of their skin but by the content of their character was rooted in, this is what he said, was rooted in a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be laid low, the rough places shall be made plain, the crooked places shall be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh will see it together. That's Isaiah, isn't it? In the shadows, Isaiah was right. Let's hear some hope because it gets us moving. He keeps coming back to it, Isaiah. That was Isaiah. Martin Luther King was quoting Isaiah 40. We're reading Isaiah chapter 2. But he'll keep coming back to it. And he has to keep coming back to it because there's going to be all sorts of darkness in between them. It's offered when things are at their bleakest. But it insists, days are coming when peace and justice will be ours. Deep in my life and also in the world at large. Days are coming. And it's not just about a hope that may feel a little bit distant. He says at the end this lovely phrase. He expresses this beautiful hope and then he turns to his hearers and he says, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. The light of tomorrow shines on today and it shapes how we walk. He paints a picture and he says, let's walk in the light of this. And I think we need to hear this because we live in times where it started to seem more and more okay to live in a kind of realism that it's look after yourself, times are hard. Be nasty if you have to. Air the prejudices that you would have kept quiet in the past. Be selfish. Live according to a small and supposedly realistic vision. And I have to say, I'm one of those people who's been challenged by Isaiah because I had a habit always of saying, people would say, well, you're a bit pessimistic. And I would say the famous phrase, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. And I tell you, you can't read Isaiah and be a realist. You're called to be hopeful, to see a future that cannot be attained, and to walk in the light of it, because we believe in God who does more than we can ask or imagine. So for the realists among us, get hopeful. The choice before us, according to Isaiah, is based on that thing of how will you walk? According to what light will you walk? So it's not just pie in the sky. It comes right down to here. If you have a hope, it will change how you live. And it puts you before, if you like, a path. An American general of a very different political persuasion to the New York mayor made this point in a speech. He said, his name is Omar Bradley, and he said, we've grasped the mystery of the atom, but we've rejected the Sermon on the Mount. Our world is full of nuclear giants, but ethical infants. We know more about war than about peace, more about killing than we know about living. Because we got realistic. We just dealt with the threats. And this is what Isaiah is talking about. He's calling us to live in the light of a vast vision of goodness and peace. To get in on it now, before the light dawns, to walk towards it and be part of making it in that way. You can tell how it affects decision making. For example, back to Eugene Debs. When he was in the dock and he said, I've seen the light of a new day dawning. And he said, so it's had implications on me. He said, long ago I decided that while there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. I've seen that new dawn, and I will be with the people that it affects the most. Martin Luther King said the same. He said, he expressed the hope of his dream, and he said, that is the hope we have, and with it we will go back to the south, and we will be able to work together, pray together, struggle together, go to jail together, stand up for freedom together, knowing that one day we will be free. That hope sheds its light, and we are called to walk in that, and it's a choice. How are we going to walk? What are we walking towards? And you and I are not living in a hopeful moment, and it will echo in our lives in all sorts of ways. So let's listen deeply to the prophet who says, days are coming when God will judge between nations and between neighbours. When God will mediate for many people, for the countries, but also the people, those who are bullied and those who are bowed down. And they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. They will turn clenched fists into warm embraces. They will transform hateful messages into affectionate notes. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and friend and neighbour will not criticise or cancel each other or gossip about each other. And none of us will learn our own forms of war anymore. Days are coming. God will act tomorrow or the day after that, right up to the day of the Lord. And the question for us is, have we seen the light? Have we seen the light of a new day dawning? At this point we're supposed to say Amen. Have we seen the light? Amen. We've seen the light. And if you've seen the light, the prophet says, walk by it. Be part of a brighter tomorrow, and stop acting like you're shuffling along in the shadows. House of Jacob, let us walk in the light of the Lord.